Well, YouTube, Ronan Kazi, got some New World playing. I'm going to talk a little bit about critical thinking as well. So recently, I think I might have mentioned one of my videos, I had some folks come in, some family, and we talked a bunch. And whenever I have these talks, it always gets me back to critical thinking and kind of understanding what you're trying to say and what other people are trying to say. And I wrote an article at one point that I have on my webpage about this. And I've done some videos about this. And what I came to in critical thinking is really, it's more important to do problem solving. And problem solving kind of shortcuts that. Instead of really having to go through some of these other things, you kind of cut right to the chase, right? I think it's more efficient. For example, I'm not going to answer this question now, but is there a God? I'd just start off asking why. Why are you even asking that question? And going through a process of doing this problem solving, you're going to get whatever answer that you get. I'm looking at the stars here. I was going to draw, that looks like an octopus to me. I was going to draw an octopus constellation in the New World universe. But what I found is when you start asking why, you understand the reasons why you're even asking a question. It kind of unlocks the bigger question. Because a lot of times you can't go right to the question. There's a lot of groundwork you have to do before that. One of the key ones is language. If everyone spoke the same language, had the exact same connotations for the words, knew the same definitions, this would all be a little bit easier. But that's not the case. Language is living and it's ever evolving. And maybe fat, P-H-A-T, is not spelled the same as F-A-T, fat. But that person is fat versus that person is fat means something completely different. They both sound the same, but they don't mean the same thing. So there's some contextual clues that you need in some of this stuff. So when you're talking about some real heavy-duty topics, probably the first thing you have to do is like, subscribe, share, unsubscribe, resubscribe. Comment when the comments are working, hit notifications. One of the things you have to do is kind of set up a groundwork or framework. And you may say, Ronan, I don't care about critical thinking and blah, blah, blah. But this commonality in problem solving and defining a problem extends to everything. Extends to the game. Recently, I've been playing the Division 2, doing legendaries. If everyone doesn't understand, a legendary means you can't push out so far because you're going to get smoked. And then that's going to be like a black hole, which sucks everyone's attention to either getting you up, or the area that you died in was the area that you were supposed to be supporting. You have the right flank. If we all don't speak that language, if we all don't understand it, we have a tougher time. Doesn't mean that you can't complete it. And this is at work. This is in your relationships. This is with you, with your parents. This is with you and your children. So language is really key. A lot of times we will talk to each other and we both, what we're doing is we say, yep, I understand you. But really what you're thinking is, yep, they understand me and they're going to do what I ask. And same thing with the other person. Instead of making the other person really articulate down into detail what they're asking you to do. Again, you might see it on a bunch of shorts, there'll be a lot of women or female creators that will talk from their perspective. They're trying to give advice to other women, like a man doesn't understand when one woman says, hey, can you help clean up the living room or clean up around the house? That's going to be two different things for her and for him. Or what if it's him and her, Or if it's Roxy. Roxy, how about you get squirted? Roxy, don't do it. So that's one of the things that's important, is to determine what you're really talking about. And when you're asking why a lot and all these things, if we go back to example, is there a God? Why do I want to know? Well, I want to have some idea of where I come from. I look up in the stars and I just say, am I God? It's me, Elizabeth, or whatever the name of that play is, What that goes back to in generally is that's where you are wondering where you fit in the cosmology of the universe. How did the universe start? If you look at it at a scientific angle, a lot of people say we can at least take some of the particles, go back to a Big Bang or not, but you can trace those particles back to then. If you're a person that really subscribes to that, then you think that you can trace every particle, so you think there's a deterministic nature of the universe. And so as you're asking why, if you think there's a deterministic nature of the universe, you're going to be more apt to believe or come to a conclusion that it's a God, because your fundamental understanding of this is that everything's been determined from the Big Bang. What about people that say, nope, I'm going to go on the literal sense of the Bible? I think when I was growing up, they would have this argument, it's like 5,000 years or whatever. So trying to prove God, and you say the universe has been here, God created it according to the Bible, and then when someone says, well, we have these fossils, so this is the first schism in all these kind of things. Either you believe in fossils or you don't. Why? Well, because you believe that there's some science to this. Well, how do I know that age? And this isn't going to be, I'm not Mr. Carbon dating, but basically atoms that are formed have isotopes. If you look at the periodic table, carbon is 6 neutrons, 6 protons, so it's like C12. I don't know if that's right. You do. It might be C6. I might look it up. Anyways, maybe the combination, whatever it is, it is. There's carbon 14. It's an isotope. It has maybe more protons or something in it. So they can calculate on these atoms their half-life. They decay and they might shed that extra proton and go down, and they can kind of guesstimate the time. Now, probably all of this was done based off things that decayed, within minutes. You had a uranium sample a minute ago, uranium-238, and then it split into 2 different things, like whatever the half-life is. So maybe at one point someone actually observed it, and again, I'd have to do the research, and then they could infer, like everything, isotopes have a half-life, and so they would say then, we know if we can look this far back into the past, there is this amount of carbon, there should have been this amount of carbon 14, but there's only this much left. That means it's decayed several times, so it's roughly X amount of years. That's kind of how they do it, I think. But what's not important is exactly how they do it. That someone else is going to do a better video than me on that. What's important is that's one basis to get some facts, which is all different than here's my opinion. My opinion is I believe this. I believe that this is how it was. But you're framing that with it's your opinion. And when you say something's your opinion, that's like the automatic, it's my opinion. Doesn't mean it's a fact. What we like to do is have dominion over the people we're talking to, so we claim some type of authority. A lot of time we'll appeal to authority that's outside us. But if you appeal to that authority, then what are the credentials of that authority? What is that person say, right? So you're just shifting the situation from opinion, really you're saying it's a fact, but really it's an opinion, unless you start fighting the battle about those credentials. And then what did you mean by when you said, I don't think it ever will happen? What do you mean by ever? Right? So there's all these things. And, sometimes you'll see some articles, philosophy is a wasted degree or whatever. We all practice philosophy every single day, all the arguments of philosophy. I don't practice accounting every single day. I don't practice sociology every day. I don't practice psychology every day. But I do think about things in a philosophical framework every day. And it's because it was one of the first kind of soft sciences kind of things. And you don't have to be a philosopher to think like this. You're just doing it anyways. If you ever looked at the stars and wonder where we came from, you know, a scientific person might be pushed to astrophysics and they might try to explain the world that way. A religious person is going to say, well, I have the sacred word from God, and other people might want to figure it out themselves, or they might say, this is what I think, and those are your opinions, which are different than facts. Facts are, I'm going to be level 20 or 22 in this game. I think level 20. New World's a good game, and so pay once. I think it's $40 now. It's a pay once, play forever. There's some really nice things. As you level up in an area, you can get different perks in that area. I told you before, it's a game where you're constantly leveling. Something's leveling up. So if you like those kind of games, good. If you like crafting, they have a robust crafting system. You would like that. So you gather materials. Then you get the materials higher. You craft some things, which gives you access to more recipes. You get higher level mats, you convert those into usable items, and it stair steps up like that. Why am I talking about critical thinking today? Because I had that recent situation with people I care about, and they want me to see things their way, and I'd love to see things their way, but some of the facts of what they're telling me aren't very, they're more faith-based, or they're more, you know, you just got to believe me on this than, you know, water. YouTube, this is a trick question. I'm going to trick you. Water freezes at 32 degrees Fahrenheit and boils at 212 degrees Fahrenheit. True or false? False. It does both of those at sea level. When I was growing up, a long time ago, on the macaroni and cheese box, they'd always have a disclaimer. If you're above 5,000 feet, then, right, because there's less air pressure. So we've taken so many shortcuts nowadays that how many above sea level caveats should be on some of the facts we have. And the great thing about the internet, I think, is it democratizes knowledge. There's no reason you shouldn't be able to find out every, you could literally give yourself a college education. The only thing you're not going to get is a validation from someone else. But I would argue that that's where you don't need the validation from. You need to validate yourself. But I can't make money on it. Believe me, there's plenty of people that make a lot of money that didn't have college but are smart and can apply critical thinking or whatever their job skills to that. College isn't the be all and end all. There's some things that in our society, to be a doctor, you have to do certain things to be a doctor. To be a lawyer, you have to pass the bar, which means you can study outside of that. Now, maybe you could take all the classes, you just wouldn't have that professor teaching you. I don't know what the difference is. Here I'm fighting the boss finally. It has a mechanic where he puts two things up. I don't really realize it at first. I keep attacking him, but nothing's happening. Then eventually I figure it out with my critical thinking YouTube. Prop. So, as I'm working through how to explain this to the people I care about, how their ideas might be a little bit less than, I'm going to share kind of some of the thought process with you. Critical thinking is important, but I think problem solving is a little bit better because I think problem solving gets you to those answers, just alleviates a step. Oh, YouTube, set my timer for 15 minutes. Maybe I should set it for more, and that wouldn't happen. So that's kind of the seed that started all this kind of stuff. I'm not going to do video on it, but it is kind of a good video. And if you search for videos on YouTube, it's just hit or miss. Two of them were just complete schlock. They say that you have to have objective knowledge. You can't have objective knowledge. That's a fallacy because you have your own stuff that you're filtering the world through, even your eyes. You know, you're already filtering everything. So, but you got to understand your biases and take those into account when you're doing anything. If you're not a person that likes science that much, you're not going to be. science-based solutions aren't going to mean anything to you. And vice versa. If you're not faith-based, then you're going to always discard faith. And you don't realize that you have a faith in science, just like a person has a faith in whatever they believe in. Here's a great thing. We don't have this, but that's a teleport out. Thanks, YouTube. Rowan Kazi, out.